Shalom Aleichem, Mishpachim. All right, I'm coming to you with my Sefer Chayenu. This is a new day in Tanya, the first Tanya of the new week, the 5th of Tevet. Tanya, page 69. All right, here we go. Today is the 5th of Tevet, which is Sunday, January 5th. All right, I'll begin. The flow. Physical objects that contain neutral energy can be used for good and elevated. For example, eating meat, drinking wine, or making a humorous remark to enhance one's Torah study or in performance of a mitzvah. In today's lesson, neutral energy or items which have been temporarily lowered into klipa, to the evil, by being misused, can be redirected and elevated when the person returns toward godliness. However, forbidden acts or objects remain locked in the realm of negative until the ultimate redemption, or the person's transformation of them through high-level teshuvah, through return. On the other hand, if a person is one of those who gluttonously eat meat and quaff wine in order to satisfy their bodily appetites and animal soul, then since of the animal's soul 4 evil elements, this desire belongs to the element of water, from which comes the appetite for pleasures. In such case, the vitality of the meat and wine that he ingested is thereby degraded and absorbed temporarily in the utter evil of the 3 unclean klipot. The glutton's body becomes a garment and a vehicle for these klipot. The term vehicle is an analogy for total subservience. Just as a vehicle is completely subservient to the will of its driver, having no will of its own, so, in this case, is this person totally subservient to the 3 unclean klipot. But his body remains so only temporarily until the person repents and returns to the service of God and his Torah. Whereupon he ceases to be a vehicle for the klipot. The energy of the food and drink is then released from the klipot and returns to sanctity. For inasmuch as the meat and wine were kosher and permissible, and it was only the person's desire for pleasure that degraded them, they have the power to revert and ascend with him when he returns to the service of God, at which time the strength gained from the food and drink are utilized in serving God. This is implied in the terms cheter, permissibility, and muter, permissible. That which may be done or eaten is called muter, literally meaning released or unbound. In our context, the term means that the permissible object is not chained to the klipot. That is to say, it is not tied and bound by the power of the extraneous forces, the klipot and sitra achra, which are extraneous to the realm of sanctity, preventing it from returning and ascending to God. Rather, it can return and ascend to God when the person involved returns to the service of God, as explained above. Nevertheless, even when this energy reverts to sanctity through the person's return to the service of God, a trace of the evil remains in the body. Eating permissible food for bodily pleasure causes the food to descend into total evil. Subsequently, the food becomes part of the body. Though repentance elevates not only the person, but also the energy of the food and drink as well, still having become a part of the body, a vestige of evil remains. For this reason, the body must undergo the purgatory of the grave, as will be explained later. Like all heavenly punishments, purgatory of the grave, too, is a means of spiritual purification. All remaining traces of evil energy created by eating and drinking for bodily pleasure are removed through this punishment. So, too, with regard to the vitality of the drops of semen emitted from the body with animal lust, by him who has not conducted himself in a holy manner during intimacy with his wife, during her state of purity. Here, too, the vitality is temporarily absorbed in the total evil of the 3 unclean klipot until a person repents. In the above instances, the fault lies not in the acts, which in themselves are permissible, but rather in the person's intention in doing them, acting out of regard for bodily pleasure, not for the sake of heaven. Such is not the case, however, with forbidden foods and illicit coition, which inasmuch as they are prohibited acts, derive their vitality from the 3 entirely unclean klipot. These are tied and bound by the extraneous forces, the klipot, forever. The vitality of these prohibited acts, are not elevated from the klipot until their day comes, the time when evil will totally disappear from the world, when death, the klipot, which is called death, because they oppose godliness, which is life, when death will be swallowed up, eradicated forever, as it is written, and I, God, will remove the spirit of impurity from the earth. Then, when the klipot cease to exist, the sparks of holiness will of themselves be freed from them. Or until the sinner repents in the manner presently described, in which case the sparks of holiness need not remain in the clutches of the klipot until the end of days. They may even be freed and restored to holiness, when he, the sinner, repents so earnestly that his premeditated sins become transmuted into veritable merits. This is achieved through repentance out of love of God, coming from the depths of the heart, with great love and fervor, and from a soul passionately desiring to cleave to the blessed God, and thirsting for God like a parched and barren soil thirsts desperately for water. For inasmuch as until now, until he repented, his soul had been in a barren wilderness and in the shadow of death, which is the Sitra Achra, and had been far removed from the light of the divine countenance in the greatest possible measure. Therefore, now that he repents out of love, his soul thirsts for God even more intensely than the souls of the righteous who have never sinned. The righteous tzaddik, ever close to God, is like one who always has water near at hand. His thirst is never so intense. The penitent, however, finds himself as if in a desert, where the very absence of water causes his thirst to burn with greater intensity. As our sages say, where penitents stand, not even the perfectly righteous can stand. For as explained earlier, the tzaddik lacks the penitent's intense yearning for God. Only concerning repentance out of such great love has it been said that the penitent's premeditated sins become for him like virtues, since through the sins which previously had distanced him from God, he attained when he repented to this great love. Thus his sins affected him in the same way as mitzvot. They brought about within him a greater love of God. In summary, it is possible even now, before evil completely disappears from the earth, to extricate the vitality of forbidden acts from the klipot through repentance out of love of God. But in the case of repentance that does not come from such love, though it be proper repentance, and God will surely pardon him, nevertheless his sins are not transformed for him into the equivalent of virtues. They are not released, and hence do not completely ascend from the klipa, so that no trace of the sin remains until the end of time, when death will be swallowed up forever. And the takeaway: you might have done something wrong. Don't let that hold you back. Let that motivate you to reconnect to God in a more powerful way. And that is the Tanya for the 5th of Tevet from my Sefer Chayinu. All right, have a wonderful day and Shavuot Tov.